All right, team, we're back with some hot XRP news today. I'm very excited to be back with you covering this today. I know Matt's excited as well. We're big XRP bulls here. And so when we start discussing that companies are going to be taking XRP off of the open market, that's when I get super excited. I got super excited, Matt, with Vivo Power earlier this year, just for a couple of weeks ago for them to announce that they were buying private Ripple shares. And some of you guys in the comments, well, that's fine with me. That's fine. No, actually not. I'm not a Ripple shareholder. I'm actually an XRP holder. And so I would rather prefer, good supply and demand dynamics with these DATs taking XRP off the market. I don't really need these companies to be buying Ripple shares, okay? And so with some of this news today, Matt, it's very exciting if you're an XRP holder. With the first one, you covered it last week on the Crypto Charge live show, but Ripple acquiring G Treasury. We're also going to be discussing this Ripple-backed firm known as Evernorth. I think I said that correctly. I don't know. I keep forgetting this name. Yeah, Evernorth. It's such a forgettable name. We're going to be discussing Evernorth, which is going to be the largest XRP treasury. We're going to get into some charting. Matt's going to get into some charting, and then we're going to talk about how this person lost $3 million worth of XRP and how you can protect yourself. This is After Hours. Matt, do you have anything informative to share with the team?
Well, guys, we try to provide a whole lot of value here Mondays, Wednesdays, and now our TikTok live on Thursdays, going live up to 2 hours doing live charts. But really, this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as what we have to offer you guys. CryptoCharge.com is where we're from. We are, of course, a subscription-based education platform, but with code YouTube, you guys get 30 days free and half off any membership you guys choose. With that, you guys get live updates Monday through Friday. So back to business today, covering the charts, looking at that rebound today. We have our coin library. We have comprehensive entry and exit plans, as well as a full analysis for over 30 different coins in our coin library. We have a learning center where we teach you about charting and our, investment strategies and all these different, maybe educational gaps you guys might have, as well as our Discord community where you guys have the opportunity to ask questions, interact with me, interact with our team, see leverage trade ideas, announcements, all that kind of stuff. So again, all that value with code YouTube. If you don't use code YouTube, you're not going to get the price I'm talking about. 50% off, so $49 a month, and then a 30-day free trial. So you guys get 30 whole days to check it out, see if it's a good fit. I'd love for you guys to at least tell me my program sucks and try 30 days and see if it's a good fit for you either way.
Let's get into the content today. Ripple acquires G Treasury for $1 billion. A watershed moment for Treasury management. Ripple and G Treasury will focus on enabling customers to tap into the multi-trillion-dollar global repo market via prime broker Hidden Road. So this is Ripple's third major acquisition in 2025, with it now being G Treasury, which is a online software service for companies to manage their money and to earn on their money safely. And the other two that was previous in this year was Hidden Road and Rail earlier this year. So the former being a brokerage firm and the latter being a stablecoin platform that was both acquired by Ripple Labs. And so in acquisition dollars here, we're talking about $2.54 billion by Ripple in acquiring corporate finance companies to bring them kind of into the XRPL ecosystem, okay? With this G Treasury, Ripple could easily import RLUSD as a transaction payment solution for G Treasury, which has Fortune 500 giants that are using their software. And so this company that Ripple acquired does $12.5 trillion annually in transactions. What does this really mean for XRP? Well, you have Ripple Labs, which is, a big user of the XRPL, right? Ripple Labs and XRPL are closely united, even though XRPL is a decentralized protocol. The thing here is Ripple Labs is bringing in these corporate finance companies that they're acquiring, and they are going to be using Ripple tech. They're going to be using blockchain-based solutions. And Ripple has a lot of money, a lot of influence. So when we're bringing more additional companies that are going to use the ledger, that are going to tokenize on the ledger, that are going to use DeFi solutions on the XRPL, this is a long-term good outlook for XRP. Don't you think, Matt?
Absolutely. With these acquisitions, first of all, kind of rolling back here, I remember that everyone was so bearish on not only the XRPL, but, also, talking so poorly about Ripple as a whole. They're dumping on us. They're just out here to do a quick rug pull. And, fast forward, we have all this clarity and you continue to see these acquisitions that aren't just of these rinky-dink companies, but of like the actual, real, tangible things that we've been talking about for years and years and years of the true, real long-term value of XRPL. And that for me is that customer facing plug and play solutions and then laying those over the rails of highly efficient blockchains or DLT solutions like the XRPL. So when you have something like G Treasury, which is essentially like the Salesforce of treasury management, that's really what you have here. It's a very robust and customizable suite for internal treasury management and risk management and a variety of other things that someone might need, especially as you start to have sometimes multiple subsidiaries under some larger company umbrellas, managing those individual profiles in conjunction with the larger profile and making sure that you have good internal treasury management flow is a huge task, right? So that's why these companies already shell out huge amounts of money for these types of products. When you're able to then introduce, say, hey, we can still help you with all your TradFi stuff, but we can also start helping you integrate tokenized deposits when it comes to NFTs that represent, intellectual property or stable coins or really any asset that you want, whether it's tangible or not, on a tokenized level, and being able to, kind of have both the TradFi and the CryptoFi side of things start to mesh together. And again, over time, I think we're going to see more and more things move towards that synthetic version or these tokenized versions, because those versions are always going to be more liquid. But this is a huge, huge use case that really starts to kind of place the legitimacy of DLT and laying the TradFi system over the crypto rails, I think, for the everyday person. So incredibly excited to see this. And I think this is probably not the last acquisition we're going to see from Ripple over these next 5 to 10 years.
The latest news has to do with Ripple-backed firm plans SPAC raising $1 billion to create the largest public XRP treasury. This is what the article had to say. Evernorth Holdings said it signed a SPAC deal with Armada Acquisition Corp and aims to list on Nasdaq. They're not listing on XRP. They'll to list on Nasdaq as XRPN after approvals. It targets over $1 billion in gross proceeds, including $200 million from SBI, with investments from Ripple, RippleWorks, Pantera, Kraken, GSCR, and even Chris Larsen. And so we're about to see the biggest acquisition of XRP by the latest and newest digital asset treasury company that is backed by Ripple, by Chris Larsen, by Kraken, by all of these entities. And I noticed, the first thing here is they're actually going to be buying XRP here. And so one of my critique at the top of the show was we had a Vivo Power come out early this year and they said, oh, they're going to be the first XRP digital asset treasury company. And then just come to find out they're buying Ripple shares, right? And their excuse for that was, well, Ripple has exposure to XRP. So if we just buy private Ripple shares, then we technically have exposure to XRP. And some of you guys in the comments were like, that's fine. That's fine. But it's not fine. All right. I wanted XRP off the market. It would be like if MetaPlanet bought MicroStrategy stock. All right. So it's kind of different because for us, it is a me versus you game. But if we're talking about supply of XRP, you want supply coming off the market. Okay. And so it's not coming off the market when Vivo Power buys private Ripple shares. All right. So with this instance, they're actually going to be buying XRP directly. Within the first few covenants of the 8K form, it said that Evernorth will purchase a number of XRP equal to the gross cash proceeds from the advance funding minus the fees, commissions, and charges. So the money raised, that will go to XRP. Wrath Economy this morning discussed that in the contract, it said purchase. It didn't say acquire. It didn't say acquire from Ripple. It didn't say anything else. It actually said purchase. And that would be the thought process of buying off of the open market. And so how much money will go of the net proceeds to XRP? Well, 200 million was just thrown out there. So let's just say $214 million and you cut into the fees and the commissions. So now you're at $213 million going towards XRP, right? So I would say that's kind of good supply and demand components when you account for XRP being a top 3 cryptocurrency in the market. It's highly looked at right now. A lot of DATs are looking at XRP as a solution to add to their balance sheet for as an asset, to propel their company. And we're seeing a lot of companies like this. So if we're taking $213 million of XRP off the open market, I would say that's an absolute win. Maddie, when it comes to these decentralized asset treasuries, do you care a whole lot about their purchases? Like, do you think about it like I do? Like, because I was critiquing a little bit about Vivo Power, right? Because the goal with them, you remember, we covered it. It's like they're going to buy XRP and then they're going to stake it with F assets on Flare. And we're going to be earning more XRP to add to our XRP bag. and then they just went and bought Ripple shares. Do you share my same criticism that I was kind of critiquing Vivo Power for? And what do you think about this new DAT Evernorth?
Yeah, so this is, like you said, it's a very different approach than Vivo Power had, and I have nothing. There's nothing wrong with having a very like straightforward and simple plan of like, okay, we want to purchase the XRP, we want to work with one DeFi protocol that we know is going to bear us a certain yield that we can kind of depend on and start to kind of continue to build our reserves from there and potentially be able to offer clients a share of that yield by being a part of that protocol, but when you have some of these other giants, first of all, SBI, you guys have probably been, if you've been following XRP a long time, you guys know that SBI out of Japan is one of the largest entities that has just been, had their fingers in the cookie jar with XRP for a very long time now. And also Pantera Capital and some of these other names on here, absolutely massive giants here that really have put their money where their mouth is when things weren't as sunny as they are today. So when you have an active treasury management vehicle, which is essentially kind of what they're working towards here. They're not just saying, hey, we want to get in this one DeFi protocol to try to earn as much yield as possible. They're likely going to be lending to other institutions. They're all going to be working towards liquidity provisioning for probably other protocols, like we see here with G Treasury management, right? Like you have a lot of things that can be funded and can accelerate the liquidity of with this type of treasury management tool versus just having like a binary outcome. So again, nothing wrong with the company saying we want to have exposure to Ripple shares, but it's certainly not anywhere close to becoming, to some extent, like a liquidity provider, a market maker, a liquidity provisioner. That is a much higher standard of participation in the network than just buying and being part of one protocol, or even again just buying Ripple shares, which is again probably not a terrible idea, but it's not somebody who actually wants to see this space propel forward like this initiative is here. So I'm very excited to see it, and I think it's really going to bring again a lot more excitement to the overall retail sentiment. I think that probably within 2 years from now, you guys are going to see Ripple talked about on CNBC and these other news outlets way more frequently, because it's going to be too difficult to ignore them, right? Especially once you get some sort of IPO for Ripple, it's going to be very difficult to ignore that. And XRP by de facto will probably become a household name as well. So again, those are some of the more exciting things from a narrative perspective that I think are going to really kind of propel the space forward moving forward.
Mm-hmm. XRP will be listed in early 2026, and I know most of you are probably not interested. Vivo Power reps will be interested because they want to buy stock, but we're going to continue to buy XRP over here and custody it ourselves. And we'll get into that in a minute here with this news article talking about how $3 million was taken out of a cold storage wallet. Ooh, we're going to get into that because Matt was telling me some people in the Discord were like, are our ledgers safe? Are they going to take our XRP? So it's always this, people going crazy when they see these news articles. So we'll make sure to break that down for you. Matt, I wanted to ask you though, just about XRP itself, because we have to do a charting for today. XRP is 32% off of its local high. Do you think XRP is a good buy right now if we were to go to the charts?
Yeah, let's take a peek at the charts here together, team. And obviously, we also need to discuss the price action off of Friday's liquidity flush, which is where it landed is nothing less than special as far as some of the areas of interest that we've been talking about quite frequently. Oh, wow, Zcash up almost 18% of the day here. We'll get to that on a different episode. But hey, make sure you guys pay attention to some of those laggards out there because eventually they do pay well. So when we take a look here at the XRP chart, we can identify a few areas of interest as far as kind of like where we've started to build liquidity from like December of 24 forward here. And there's a few areas of interest that I think are important that we pay attention to. So you have the top of range towards like the $3.30 region. You have bottom of range here close to like $1.90. And you kind of have like a pivot zone that chops down the middle around 227. Now there's other areas of interest here that we can look at, but these are some of the three main areas of interest that I want you guys to pay attention to. Now, one of the more minor levels that we lost was $2.70. So we were building kind of this flag in here, just classic clean flag structure. And of course, that liquidation flush kind of disrupted and disturbed that flagging structure in there. Now, as far as daily candle body closes, first of all, that candle came all the way down to $1.34, $1.37. Put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that in a second. As far as where the daily candle closed, $2.36. So we actually still closed around the pivot zone. Now, ideally, we would have maintained above 270. That would have insinuated more short-term bullishness. It would have been riding closer to the 50-day, 100-day moving average, which also indicates more short-term bullishness. So short-term, we've lost a little bit of that momentum. But as far as where we see most of these candle bodies close, well above the 225, 227 region. So I think overall, we're in still a relatively healthy spot. Now, like you mentioned, where are we as far as the overall good deal side of things, right? And we can say, yeah, we're a certain amount off the previous high in here, right? $3.66 or whatever up there, about 32% off of those highs. I don't know if that's good enough of a discount. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that's still 60, 65, 70% off of, even at local highs, right? Ondo, I recently opened a new position in here recently. We're going to be doing a breakdown on Wednesday on Ondo on the show if you guys are interested in that. not on Ask Maddie, but on our Crypto Charge live show. But I think there's a lot of other deals out there that are providing much better ROI from current market. Because again, if we take all this away and we look at just the same range we've been identifying here for several years now, and we're looking at, $5.50 upwards of $14 potentially as those areas of interest, right? Even from current market, we're looking at maybe 120% move up to maybe a 400, 500% move, which again is not a terrible return, but I just know that there's other opportunities right now that are offering the same multiple without even making a new all-time high. H&T, API3, Velo, Casper, all of these opportunities are offering much better ROI. So I know it's probably frustrating because you're like, man, why are you guys yapping about all this great bullish XRP news? You're telling me not to buy XRP. It's not so much that we're not telling you to buy XRP. We're just showing you guys the overall risk to reward ratio, and risk management is such an important part of investing as a whole. Last thing I want you guys to look at this chart here, and not that I want to be excited necessarily about that flush, but when you guys see the flush that occurred in here, I saw this breakout that occurred over these tops in here, right? So you had a huge top, distributive top that was built here in 21 through December of 21, right? Very distributive. That ended up being kind of that last impulsive move to the upside, and you got that breakdown in there. You built a new accumulative base, and then you break out here in October, November, right? And this breakout was so intense, and it really had almost no pullback. So from breakout to our first pullback was about 470%. We had, after that minor pullback, about 600%. So we cranked out about 600% gains with little to no pullback, and left this gap wide open. These types of tops should get clapped. And over again, I told the team, like, hey, as much as I love these minor levels, this is the wide open gap that should get satiated at some point. So $1.34, $1.36 is the area that we came back down to. Market makers manipulated price all the way back down to that order block. Of course, gave pretty much no one opportunity to purchase that. Most candle body closes were up there again towards that 230 plus region. But nonetheless, it is amazing when you see this type of breakout backtest behavior, even when it takes a very long time. So again, from breakout to final backtest was 322 days, almost a whole year for us to get that backtest. But just remember, every time someone tells you on X or YouTube or whatever, we're never going to see XYZ price again. How do you know? Especially when there's a gap open, I would never ever make that type of, very stringent bet.
Absolutely, Matt. That looks good. And, we're talking a lot about XRP in this show today. And I just saw over the weekend, I actually saw it on TikTok first. I know it was very popular on YouTube, but a man lost $3 million worth of XRP. So here's the story. Hackers siphoned $3 million in XRP from U.S. users' wallet. A U.S. individual has lost about $3 million worth of XRP in an EliPal wallet theft. Ooh, so this video, like I said, super viral on the internet this past weekend. This older man got his $3 million worth of XRP stolen. And he got it stolen in a way that was connected to EliPal, and EliPal offers a cold storage solution. And so people would then thus freak out and say, oh my gosh, he got his crypto hacked out of his cold storage device. So let's talk about this and kind of what happened. In the case of this investor, it was a user error. And so Zach XBT kind of broke it down on X this morning. But after the funds were stolen out of his cold storage device, it was taken over to the Tron network. Then they were sold to OTCs in connection to Huawei, which is a marketplace, an online marketplace in Cambodia. And so it just so happens last week that the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network has cut all ties with the U.S. financial markets and Huawei in Cambodia. And they just happened to mention that in 2024 alone, $10 million had been stolen from scams and sent to Southeast Asia. So this is a thing that's very prominent. They said it was up 66% from the previous year. So scams are on the rise. I know you guys have been paying attention to a lot this year. If you scroll through any reputable news outlet, like, that's crypto related, like CoinDesk, Blockworks is always talking about crypto funds that are being stolen. What occurred in this instance was the cold wallet seed phrase was exposed. And what happened was the man literally grabbed his phone and in the phone app typed in his seed phrase, and EliPal said that it was exposed to the internet. So I don't know how that exactly works. How do you type in your seed phrase as a password for a hot wallet that's exposed to the internet? They didn't give any real clarification on that. But the thing here is he was typing in, Matt, his seed phrase into his phone. I can't think of a situation where you would ever have to do that. And that's the problem here is like, number one is that he doesn't know the difference between a hot and cold wallet. And number two is that he literally exposed the most important key information to his crypto, being his seed phrase, and exposed that for another user or entity to take that seed phrase. And once they get that seed phrase, boom, your crypto's gone. They have access to it, right? And so Matt, what kind of, how would you evaluate this? And what kind of message do you get to people that come to you all the time and they're like, hey, Matt, like, what should I do for my crypto safety? Because I don't want to end up like this guy.
Yeah, unfortunately here, I guess he wanted to be a magician for Halloween and turned his ice cold storage wallet into a red hot wallet and just show everyone how quickly that can occur. Your level of safety just in your everyday life depends on like your level of just carefulness in general, right? Some of you guys use the absolute same password for everything you do. You get text message verification instead of 2FA. There's never a 100% fail safe, but there's a lot of these devices that are cold storage devices, again, are only cold as long as you keep them cold. Like you have the ability to make them very hot. So like, don't think that it just because you own a cold storage device that it's always cold. You can 100% turn it into a hot wallet almost immediately. There's three major competitors in this space, right? You've got Ledger, you've got Treasury, and you've got LPal. There's other cold storage providers, but those are like the big three that everyone goes with. And they all work a little bit differently, right? Ledger and Trezor have the software, and then you have the LPal, which is air gapped, meaning that it only communicates through QR codes. So literally the only way, like you mentioned, that this ever could have gotten into somebody else's hands is by quite literally taking your seed phrases and putting them into an online portal or a lookalike app or into something garbage. But there should never be a reason why you're popping your seed phrases into your app like that. There's just never a reason for it. So really, it just comes down to, especially if you have millions of dollars, I would imagine that you spent 3 or 4 minutes watching the instructional video on the importance of seed phrases. Every single cold storage provider requires when you set up a device, they're like, it's unskippable. They're like, you understand this, right? Yep, check the box, right? If I pop my seed phrases somewhere, I'm absolutely fucked, right? Yep, totally get that, right? They make you answer these questions when you set up a cold storage device. Try to set one up and push past it. They make you agree to make you sure you understand all these things. If I lose my seed phrases, no one can help me recover them. You understand this, right? And some people still will load up, like you said, 7 figures of crypto and think that, oh, well, I can just pop them in at any time. Like there's never a reason to put that information in there. It's no different than you go into the bank or on the back of your windshield in your car, putting your social security number and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I got hacked. No, you didn't get hacked. You just did a terrible job preserving some important data that is relevant to recovery or identity or some of those factors. So, there's always going to be news outlets that will immediately kind of put the word hack and LPal together or hack and Ledger together. And it's really just very detrimental to the space as a whole because it starts to take away people's faith in cold storage. But really, it comes down to user management. And unfortunately, we had somebody who is now kind of to some extent smearing LPal's name when the reality is it's just being lazy and being irresponsible. So if you guys are a cold storage user, please make sure those seed phrases are offline. I know some of you guys think, oh, well, the notepad on my computer is just fine. No, it's not, because guess what? You click on some website that you're not supposed to be clicking on and someone gains keystrokes in your computer, whatever, they'll just mass search your computer for sentences that don't make sense, for strings of 24 words that are not coherent, and they'll try them, right? Because it doesn't cost them anything to try those words. They have CRMs to help try this stuff out. They treat this like a business and they treat you guys like leads, and it doesn't mean that all of them have to pay out. Thousands and thousands won't work. They only have to get a few of you guys that work. So not trying to begin on a whole passionate rant about it, but I hate seeing people who choose to do what should be the safest, most responsible thing, and then fumbling the bag at the very last minute and then losing absolutely everything. So please, guys, be very, very careful. If you guys are on exchange, swap everything from text message to 2FA. Don't interact with DMs that you guys don't recognize. Please just use your internet condoms and some common sense.
Yeah, and last thing, because I have 3 Ledger devices. I think I have 3 Ledger devices in a Trezor. And so I have like a main ledger that I'm using right now. And when I'm interacting with the internet, I'm going to use a different ledger. So there's like one ledger that I'm never going to interact with the internet. Like I'll open up on my software, but that's about it. I'm not going to be interacting with protocols, connecting that ledger because, sometimes I want to look at these protocols and maybe I want to connect it. And then maybe I connect it to the wrong thing and they drain my wallet. So I want to be careful in that way, or maybe they're exposed to something, I think we've broken this down years ago, but like, hey, listen, you have a cold storage solution, keep that safe. Don't expose yourself. Don't expose your seed phrase. Have backup cold storage solutions if you're really into this. Also, too, I've been talking about this for years. The offline external hard drive that I use, that has all my passwords on it. I do not connect that to anything. And so it's not written down anywhere. I can even put a code on that if I wanted to. So if someone takes that external hard drive, plugs it into a computer, they would have to know a code too. I don't even need to do that unless the government's going to come knock down my door and figure out all my information. But that's just extra measures of security that you could be doing. And so I see a lot of people, Matt, online that are just proponents of crypto themselves. And so their service they offer is, hey, you can do one-on-ones with me. I'll teach you how to do, set up for an exchange. We'll go through all that, setting up your cold storage solution, investing into crypto, strategizing a portfolio. At Crypto Charge, that same thing is occurring, but you get a little bit more of that. You get the website, you get the Discord platform, you're able to interact with everyone around you. And so, I know we're kind of harboring and we're kind of stressing this point, but it is pretty sad to see all these people lose their money. And so, team, I would say, hey, get that 30-day free trial and then learn a little bit if you're going to leave. You're probably going to end up staying, but learn the basics before you start going out there. I was talking to some older guy this weekend, and he wants to get into Bitcoin now, as they all do when Bitcoin price is up all the way. This happened last bull run with my college professor. Hey, guys, I'm thinking about buying crypto. Should I buy it? One guy on the other side of the room, yeah, I'm wagging my head. No, because that's silly. We're at all-time highs. We're in price discovery. You're going to buy Bitcoin right now and watch a 80% crash. And so now these older heads want to get into crypto right now. And as I'm describing it, I hear how unsafe it feels to them. And so sometimes I recommend ETFs. Sometimes you just say, hey, you buy it within Coinbase, which is regulated here in the US, and you can keep your crypto on there. But if you want to take it one step further, you got to go to a cold storage solution. You got to hold it on your wallet because you never know. Robinhood went down for 2.5 hours just a couple Mondays ago, right? That could be you when you're going to try to sell on Coinbase one day. And so again, team, you need a cold storage solution. Your cop out isn't just to keep it on exchange. You need the cold storage device and you need to be able to operate with it in a very simple manner. And you can learn that at Crypto Charge. Matt, anything to cap off the show with?
Don't be silly, wrap your digital willy. That's the mantra I'm going to leave you guys with today. But seriously, I hope you guys got some value. If you guys love the XRP content, please spam XRP in the comments below. And if anything you guys need clarification on, or you guys want to see more content in future episodes on certain content that you find is valuable, please let us know. We want to make sure that we're orienting these shows for you guys, making sure that we're providing as much value as possible. But I appreciate you guys tuning in today.
Absolutely, team. We will see you guys next time. Bye.